So for our first question today, it comes from Steve Fretzin of Fretzin Inc. And Steve is also the host of a great podcast called Be That Lawyer with Fretzin. Steve asks, how do I best prepare my law practice for sale? Steve, thanks so much. Great question on the minds of thousands and thousands of attorneys, baby boomer attorneys in particular, that are thinking like, how do you prepare? How do I prepare my law practice for sale? So let's first start with, okay, what do you have to sell? Right? What is it that lawyers have of value that they would present to a buying firm? And what we're showing here is that lawyers have and law firms have 5 components of value. And those consist of the client list and the referral source list. Taken together, that is the book of business of a given lawyer or law firm. And then the additional, what we call value chips, are the goodwill that a firm has developed over the course of many, many years in their community, state, nationally, sometimes even internationally. The subject matter knowledge that lawyers at the firm, as well as parastaff, have developed over the course of many years. And then more and more, as the 2020s continue, the digital value that firms develop. And when it comes to utilizing that value, okay, and preparing your law firm for sale, there's really 3 checklists that we recommend that attorneys consider when they're considering preparing for a law firm sale. The first, of course, is asking yourself, all right, is now even the right time to sell? Okay, and how do you know if now is the right time to sell? So in this checklist, several of the now is the right firm to sell items on that checklist are, well, there could very well be a life event going on. I'm not necessarily talking about a health event, but often our clients, they identify a certain age, right? Like I just always knew I wanted to retire at age 70 or 72, some type of life event that happens in your life. Second is something that we hope people really give a lot of thought to, which is there realistically a low probability that your internal successor, that is the person that you just wish would walk down the hall and walk into your office and say that they want to purchase your firm, is there really a low probability that that will ever happen? In our experience, actually, it is a pretty low probability because your internal successor, that is the attorneys who you hired many years ago and that you would love to take over the practice because you look at it as a great opportunity for them to continue the business that really you've developed. They were hired as key employees, and often they just want to stay as key employees. So that's an important one to recognize. And now is the right time to sell because I realize that my internal successor just doesn't really want to purchase the practice and often can't afford to either. And then another point is recognizing that in the 2020s, growth by acquisition has finally arrived to the legal industry, and recognizing that and preparing for that in terms of just even seeing that there are opportunities that firms want to purchase your firm. I spoke with a potential seller just the other day, and they were surprised that there are 5 firms that are already interested in their practice. And then coming out of COVID, another reason is, lawyers, like so many of us in society today, they want to spend more time with their family. Right? And so if you're thinking about selling your practice and that you want to have more work-life balance, selling is a great way, of course, to introduce that. And it doesn't mean you have to automatically retire because many of our clients, when they sell their practices, they really are joining another firm, practicing for a number of years, but improve their work-life balance significantly because they no longer own the practice. And then a couple other reasons why you're preparing for selling is looking at your bottom line. Okay, if your numbers are actually going down for some reason, you still have clients, you still have referral sources. Going back to those 5 value chips, those are the most important value chips when it comes to selling a firm. But if you start seeing those numbers going down and you're not generating as much revenue as yesteryear, it's really, that is a hint, that is a sign, that is a bottom line reason for considering of moving over your practice to particularly to a growing firm that is certainly going to be interested in the book of business that you have that you've developed. And then another reason that so many of our clients bring up, but we really refer to this one as almost a red herring, is your upcoming lease renewal. Too many lawyers wait too long to consider selling their practice because their lease is going to be up in a couple of years. And we're always recommending just consider your lease as a deal term. Even if you have a couple years left on the lease, if now otherwise would be a right time to sell your practice, then pursue it, and it just becomes a deal term to consider. In terms of the other checklists for preparing for your firm to sell, there's things you should really consider updating and organizing. So I'm a bit of a broken record here in terms of the importance of the client list and the referral source list, but let me just say it loud and clear. That is your most valuable asset, your book of business, your client list and your referral source list, the most valuable asset of your law firm. So a top priority if you're preparing for selling your law firm is please organize that list. What are the current addresses? What are the current email addresses? What are the current phone numbers? What am I missing? The current cell phone number, right? We text with our clients today. We communicate with people by text. Having the mobile phone numbers is huge. Other items in terms of updating is your website, your LinkedIn profile. There, just a small thing, but please update your picture, right? The picture on a website that's like 20 years younger than how you look now. I'm sure you still look handsome or beautiful now as you did then, but it's important to update those pictures as well. And then there's just other things to get your arms around, right? I mean, those contracts that you have that are more than terminable at will, just have an idea and be careful. Like we see that people that will enter into a multi-year copier lease. Of course, that multi-year lease for your office is important, but try to get your arms around, what are those contracts that you have that are more than 30, more than terminable at will. And that final checklist, when you're considering preparing for your law firm sale, is some of the logistics involved with selling the practice. Okay, how are you going to value the practice? Are you going to pursue an internal sale or an external sale? Is what we call, are you going to? Well, let me say it differently. Do you qualify for what we call a law firm sale 1.0 or 2.0? Most sales today are 1.0 based on earnouts. Really, the ways that 2.0 comes into play is if your firm has really developed real brand value and has real digital value. What's your role going to be? Okay, like I mentioned before, is there a birthday there that you just really want to be all done at 70? Or do you want to be of counsel and you can see yourself practicing for many years to come? What is your role going to be? That one, and I give credit to Steve Fretzin. He's the person that asked this question. Steve's a great lawyer coach, and that's one that's really worthwhile to talk through with friends, family, a business coach. Like, what is your role going to be after you sell or merge your business, your law firm? Client files, your malpractice insurance, other items that you should be thinking of, and then whether you should involve an intermediary. Of course, we can offer those services, but involving an intermediary we find is very valuable as you're considering to prepare for a law firm sale. So Steve Fretzin, thank you so much for that great question.